So over the weekend, Donald Trump headed up to Pennsylvania to hold a rally for Dr. Mehmet Oz, the individual that he has endorsed in that Republican primary that, by the way, will take place on May 17th. Trump endorsed Oz, and Republicans have not been happy, most of them, with that decision. They wanted him to go for really any of the other Republicans in that race, but Donald Trump went against the grain as usual, endorsed Oz. So at a muddy, rainy rally this past weekend in Pennsylvania, Donald Trump goes up there. He gets his usual applause. People like what he has to say. He's playing the greatest hits. But then he introduces Oz. Says he's a great guy. Looked great on TV, by the way. He also had to throw that out there. In fact, he said his show is great. He's on that screen. He's in the bedrooms of all those women, telling them good and bad. Because that's what we really need from Republicans, right? Go into women's bedrooms and tell them what's good and bad. But when he announced Oz, something interesting happened to that crowd. The cheers turned to boos. The crowd didn't want Oz. The crowd didn't want to hear from Oz. In fact, the people closest to the stage, a lot of them, what they did when Oz finally came up there, they turned their backs. So he was speaking to people with their backs turned to him because they didn't care what he had to say. They don't like him. They don't want him. They're not happy that Trump endorsed him. Oh, they still love Donald Trump, right? Again, they showed up there in the rain, standing in the mud, elbow to elbow, probable super spreader event, but didn't want to hear what Oz had to say. This, to me, is going to be the real test of Donald Trump's kingmaker abilities. Now, you've heard me talk a lot about how Donald Trump's track record with endorsing people is not very good. In fact, less than 50% of the time, the person he endorses goes on to ultimately win the seat. But he's actually had a decent enough track record in this year's primaries. Now, there haven't been a ton yet, so don't get all excited thinking Trump has, changed the tide on this. But, right, his endorsement of J.D. Vance, Vance won. He endorsed some folks over in Texas. A couple weeks ago, they had their primaries. Those people won. A couple other folks have lost. But Oz is the big one. Because Republicans, like I said, were not happy that he endorsed Oz. But if his endorsement is enough to push Oz over the edge, then that might show that things have changed for Trump and that people do care what he has to say and that they will listen to him no matter what. If Oz loses, I think that's the end for Trump. Now, he's not going away. He's not going to stop endorsing. He's not going to not run in 2024, right? But it is going to show not just Trump himself, but the entire country that you don't get to tell us what to do. And that's going to send a message to all these other Republican voters out there that, oh, we don't have to vote for this guy just because Trump endorsed him? Great. I can still love Trump, but I don't have to listen to him. That's going to be a massive blow to Trump's ego. And that is going to hurt him down the line. Of course, that only applies if Oz loses. Now, Oz right now has a 2-point lead in the latest polls released last Thursday. However, that 2% lead that he has is within the margin of error. So statistically speaking, it is a tie. And if this thing were to go to a runoff, considering the fact that Oz is only at 18%, if it goes to a runoff, he is likely to lose as the support for the other individuals will be consolidated into the one who goes against Oz. So that's what we're looking at here. Big test of Donald Trump's power. And right now, based on the rally this past weekend, it's not looking very good for Trump. This is Hattie. Hattie wants to know why you have not subscribed to our channel. You obviously like our videos, so do us a favor and subscribe.